Library. My name is Dr. Paulina Crunchy, and it is my pleasure to moderate this afternoon's session. As I have said, when you join us, please remember to update your name to reflect who you are formally, and kindly mute yourself so that you do not disrupt this afternoon's session. We hope to do this in 90 minutes, and we will stick to the time. Once again, welcome. It is my singular honor to welcome you to this afternoon's launch of the Yankah Digital Library. In an age where AI and digital technologies thrive, and where we have seen cuts in funding to the arts and social sciences around the world, for me personally, it is imperative that the works of people like Professor Yankah are preserved by the very tools that threaten the arts and social sciences. This afternoon is therefore a celebration and a launch of the Yankah Digital Library, and I welcome you all. Moving forward with the program, as I have said, we are going strictly according to time. And so we'll take remarks from Professor Angela Owusu-Ansah of Ashesi University, where Professor Yankah is an emeritus professor. Before Professor Owusu-Ansah comes in, I'll read a short bio of her. Professor Owusu-Ansah is the provost of Ashesi University and ISSOTL Regional Vice President for Africa. She brings over 30 years of experience in education across Africa and the US. A Phi Kappa Phi member, she has served on accreditation boards, including GTEC and CAEP. She previously held leadership roles at Elon and Samford universities in the US. Angela champions innovative teaching, e-learning for marginalized students, and capacity building across 70 plus African universities. Her research focuses on higher education impact, digital instruction, intercultural learning, and women's leadership in African higher education. Prof. Owusu-Ansah, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. Please forgive me, I have a bit of a cold. I'd like to welcome you to this marking of a new era. 20 years ago, when I was working on a project, I found that technology at that time had a year of 3 months was considered a year in technology. I don't know what it is today. But today, when you look at the current newspapers we have, if you put all the daily newspapers together, that news is the equivalent of a year's news in the 1890s. So with the love that Professor Yankah has for sharing knowledge, it is apparent that it is also an opportune time for an inflection, since things are moving so fast, that he also join the digital age. At the conference I'm attending right now, there was a debate as to whether faculty should revert and find ways to meet the Gen Zs and learn about how the Gen Zs learn, and we should go. And then there was an argument opposing that to say, no, they should understand that this is the world they're coming into. But I see that Prof. Yankah has chosen to go down the middle, where now the baby boomers, that's his generation, are now looking into ways to meet the Gen Zs at a point of the future. The future of our schools and education in Africa for transformation lies in technology. And what better way to do this for, as he says, the old man to join the digital age. So we salute him for modeling it for the rest of us to know that the path now is for us to all find a point of meeting. And I welcome you all to this point where we are all going to have to start a new chapter. So thank you, Professor, for leading the way. And thank you all for attending this memorable time together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Yankah. We have some august people joining us this afternoon, and as the event goes on, I will introduce them one after the other. For now, a few housekeeping tips. Again, once you join, please use your official name so that the interaction will reflect that this is a formal event. Thank you all very much. Evans, if you can hear me, it will be great to hear what you have to say about Kwesi Yankah rights in 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kranchi, for this opportunity. So as Professor Yankah rightly said, Prof. Yankah has transitioned from the days of pen and paper into the digital space. And now he's about to launch a digital library. But I thought to set the context for today's conversation, it'd be good to have a read of one of his, a piece I personally enjoyed. His biography, The Pen at Risk, Spilling My Little Beans. That's the title and subtitle. In the interest of time, since I have only 3 minutes, I will take all of us to page 52. Page 52 has a subtitle, Running into Trouble, and it reads, there was an unforgettable incident in Winnipeg sport I now decide to upload. This is a situation where, as an athlete, I literally ran into trouble. The likelihood that this was no longer a secret was brandished before me when I attended Winnipeg's 60th anniversary speech day in the year 2009. I then realized it had been an open secret, only hashed in, please don't tell anybody. At my peak as an ace athlete, I partook in a 220 yards or 200-meter race, representing my great house, Agri, originally in Cromer House. It was a favorite race I had long awaited, and now here it was. At the blast of the whistle, I swiftly took off and easily assumed a comfortable lead, ahead of 3 other competitors. I widened the gap over a period until the last 50 yards, when, under circumstances beyond my control, I was compelled to slow down, holding my tummy. With disappointment written on faces and cheers diminishing, I stepped out of the track, while all runners, including the weakest, sped past and finished the race ahead of me. I couldn't believe it. I submitted to such an anticlimax. I felt dejected and completely shattered. I had let down my house for the first time. Marcus, my nickname, had for once let down his teeming fans. What happened? The entire school wondered. Well, I withheld that secret until Winnipeg's 60th anniversary. Years later, when on the night of reminiscing among past students, Alfred Hoodbrook, my junior at Agri House, spilled the beans, blowing it all. Alfred recalled the event and divulged the gory details. After the leakage, we all broke into fits of laughter. But I had to instantly assume my role as Senior Yankah and call that bad boy to order. Hey, Hoodbrook, bad boy. Who told you this? I say, kneel down. I issued a command, enacting bullying routines in our Winneba days. Whereupon Alfred, then over 50 years old, knelt down before me in playful obedience and started begging Senior Yankah amidst an explosion of laughter and teasing among old boys around. What really happened in the tracks was a good lesson for all athletes, but it wasn't my fault. Blame my loose underwear, which released my goose midway, allowing them to dangle and interfere with my speed. Abandoning the race was the wisest alternative for a senior in good standing. My tummy, which I held that day, was only a metaphor. The real drama hung elsewhere. The pen at risk. The Yankah Classics. Over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much, Ivan. That is very interesting. I had no idea that Prof is a man of many parts, but I had no idea that he used to be an athlete as well. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. At this point, we will take the keynote address from Mr. Albert Jumfor, who is the GJA president. But before he speaks, I'd like to introduce him briefly. Mr. Albert Jumfor is the president of the Ghana Journalists Association and chief executive officer of D West End Communications and Media Consultancy, publishers of the Daily Analyst and the Business Analyst. A seasoned communication and media professional, he possesses extensive experience in journalism, strategic communication, and public relations. He holds a bachelor's degree from GIMPA and an MA in monitoring and evaluation, an MA in international relations and diplomacy, and a postgraduate diploma in public administration. A multiple award winner, his recognitions include the Gold Coast Excellence Awards 2020, Harper Media Entrepreneur Award California 2023, Ghana Executive Awards 2025, Ghana CEO and Vision Awards 2025 for his outstanding leadership, and many more. Beyond his professional work, he volunteers as a juror for the Society for AIDS in Africa, SAA, and is an active member of Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, and the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. He holds a bachelor's degree from GIMPA, like I've said, 2 MAs, and a postgraduate diploma, and serves on the Federation of African Journalists Steering Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, to give us our keynote for today, we have Mr. Albert Jumfor. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Madam. At a point, I was asking myself, am I the one who is being introduced, or I don't want any problem, but I think that you are right on point, and thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I'll go straight to my keynote address, but before that, let me commend our very own Prof for making it possible this afternoon. In fact, the day is so loaded and packed, but for Prof, I can't say no. I have no choice. He is our father, he is our mentor, and everything. So, Prof, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be the keynote speaker for today's launch. So, distinguished guests, esteemed academics, honorable speakers here, respected members of the media, and Prof, let me tell you that most of our members are also here listening and following the proceedings. Students and researchers across the globe, ladies and gentlemen, once again, good afternoon. It is a profound honor and indeed an immense personal privilege to deliver the keynote address at this historic launch of the Professor Kwesi Yankah Digital Library, a powerful archive of knowledge, memory, scholarship, and nation building. Today, we gather not only to unveil a digital platform, but to celebrate the lives, work of one of Ghana's most illustrious academics, a public intellectual of uncommon depth, and a national treasure whose pen has shaped thought, policy, and public discourse for nearly 5 decades. The significance of today's occasion. When the idea of a digital library dedicated to Professor Kwesi Yankah was first mentioned to me, my immediate thought was, what a befitting legacy for a man who has spent his entire life documenting ours. The launch is significant for 3 reasons, and I'll walk you through the 3 reasons. First, it immortalizes an extraordinary intellectual heritage, making it accessible to generations of students, journalists, scholars, policymakers, and curious minds. Second, it preserves Ghana's culture, academic, and media history, including speeches, monographs, ethnographic works, and decades of newspaper columns that have shaped national conversations. Third, it inspires the next generation of journalists and writers by reminding us that truth-telling, scholarship, and storytelling remain sacred duties that must be carried with courage and integrity. The Professor Yankah Digital Library is therefore more than a website. It is a national memory bank, one that captures where Ghana has come from, where she stands, and where she must go. A tribute to Professor Kwesi Yankah, the scholar. Ladies and gentlemen, how does one begin to speak about the man whose intellectual influence stretches across comments and continents? Professor Kwesi Yankah is described appropriately as a linguist, an ethnographer of communication, a public intellectual, an academic leader, a prolific author, and a national statesman. His illustrious biography alone tells a remarkable story. He is a former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana.
Vital, could you please mute yourself? Mr. Jomfo, you are muted if you are still speaking.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that he is a former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana. He is a former Vice Chancellor of Central University, where he transformed the institution from a mentored undergraduate college into a fully fledged degree awarding university. He is a former Minister of State for Tertiary Education, a role he executed with vision and distinction, reflecting his unmatched contribution to Ghana's educational development. He is a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, and a fellow of the American Folklore Society. His scholarship has taken him to some of the world's finest universities, including Stanford, Northwestern, Michigan, Berkeley, Pennsylvania, Birmingham, in the United Kingdom, and others. Everywhere he went, he left behind a rich legacy of intellectual excellence. A library giant. Professor Yankah is the author of award-winning classics such as Speaking for the Chief, Otiami and the Politics of Akan Royal Oratory, and the Proverb in the Context of Akan Rhetoric. These works are used as reference texts across continents and have received prestigious national awards. More recently, he has gifted the world new intellectual treasures, including Beyond the Political Spider, published in 2021, and The Pen at Risk, published in 2023, a work described by and journalist and with Manasseh Azuri as authentic and ungarnished history. Even in his later years, Professor Yankah continues to deliver keynote lectures at leading institutions, including Access University, the University of Ghana, and the International Society for Folk Narrative Research. Clearly, retirement is not in his vocabulary. Knowledge is his vocation, and his lifelong service to the nation remains unwavering. A champion of journalism, even without being a journalist. And I speak as the president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of Professor Yankah's legacy is that although he's not a trained journalist, he has had one of the most profound impacts on Ghanaian journalism. As far back as the 1970s, far back 1970s, he was a fearless columnist whose writings appeared in the Catholic Standard, The Mirror, The Spectator, Public Agenda, The Times, Uhuru Magazine, and many others. In the 1980s, the Ministry of Information named him Columnist of the Year during the tenure of the evergreen Mr. Totobi Kwachi, despite his consistent criticism of government policy. In 1996, the Ghana Journalists Association, to which I lead, under the then leadership of Ambassador Kabrabre Amir, honored him for authoring the longest-running newspaper column in the history of Ghanaian journalism, a record that still stands nearly 3 decades later. This alone should inspire every journalist listening today. Professor Yankah has shown us that journalism is calling rather than a certificate, that truth is sacred even when it is uncomfortable, and that writing is a lifetime commitment rather than a temporary profession. To us in the GJA, he is more than a friend of the media. He is a guiding conscience. He is more than a friend in the media. He is a guiding conscience about the Professor Yankah Digital Library, a gift to journalism, scholarship, and history. The Digital Library we launch today consolidates 5 decades of intellectual output. Its content includes published books and monographs, public lectures, inaugural addresses, and keynote speeches, including some that were once censored. It also contains speeches that shaped political and academic discourse, newspaper columns spanning multiple decades, social media writings from 2021 to date, unpublished manuscripts, and ongoing works. This library is designed to serve journalists, historians, scholars, students, policymakers, and anyone who cares about Ghana's history or Ghana's story. It answers critical questions such as how journalists survived censorship in earlier regimes, what social and political issues defined various eras, what opportunities and dangers writers across generations faced, and how Ghana's democratic journey has shaped public communication. In essence, the library is a national treasure chest. It is a timeless reference every historian and every Ghanaian to use this resource. Knowledge is power, but archived knowledge is a gift to posterity. Reflections, gratitude, and a call to action. Today, we honor a man whose life teaches us 3 enduring lessons. Scholarship is a lifelong duty. 1. 2. Writing shapes nations. And the last, but not least, the truth must always be told, no matter the cost. To you, Professor Kwesi Yankah, on behalf of the Inky Fraternity, the Ghana Journalists Association, I salute you. You have been a teacher of teachers, a scholar of scholars, and a writer of writers, and a public intellectual without equal. Your 50-year journey of shaping Ghana's intellectual and media landscape is now immortalized in this digital monument. We celebrate you, we honor you, and we thank you. To the organizers and partners of this project, Your dedication to preserving Ghana's intellectual heritage is deeply commendable. You have built a resource that will serve countless generations. To journalists and media institutions, let us draw inspiration from Professor Yankah's courage, precision, discipline, and elegance of thought. Let us document our nation truthfully so that the future will always have a record to learn from. To students and researchers, dive into this ocean of knowledge. The future belongs to the curious. And in conclusion, as we officially launch the Professor Kwesi Yankah Digital Library, let us remember that we are not merely opening a website, we are opening Ghana's memory, a reservoir of wisdom, and a living classroom for the nation. Once again, I congratulate and celebrate Professor Kwesi Yankah, a true giant of academia, a pillar of Ghana's educational sector, and a father of modern public intellectualism. May this library shine as brightly as the legacy of the man whose work it preserves. Thank you, and God bless you all. God bless the Ghana Journalists Association. God bless Professor Kwesi Yankah, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chumfo. That was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant speech. And for me, when Prof called me a few weeks ago to moderate the session, I was starstruck. The reason I was starstruck was because this is a man who I read as a child. This was a man whose intellectual work shaped my PhD. And so my research is in political PR, but decolonized political PR. And what I did was to use proverbs to explain public relations in Ghana. And the depth of the work that Professor Yankah has done when it comes to proverbs, linguist, and his work as a public intellectual is something that no one can underplay. And you rightly hit the nail on the head when you describe him as an academic, as a public intellectual, as an administrator, a politician, and all of that. Thank you very much once again. I would like to remind you all, if you have just joined, that you are welcome to the launch of the Yankah Digital Library. If you have just joined us, please remember to change your display name to reflect who you actually are. In a bit, I will mention some of the VVIPs who have joined us this afternoon, but I want to give you an opportunity to tell me about the impact of Professor Yankah's work on you as an individual, whether it is through his writings in the newspapers, his academic work, like I have shared my experience, whatever it is. I will give 3 people 2 minutes each to tell me the impact that Professor Yankah's work has had on them. Any volunteers? Any takers? Any takers? Prof. Obeng, I see that you are very tempted. So maybe I'll let you go.
I'm smiling because yes, I took the temptation. Thank you. All right, thank you very much for the invitation to be here and also the opportunity. I had the chance to actually read Professor Yankah's work when I was while as an adult, and I'm holding my copy of the book here while as an adult, but really also even pockets of his text many years ago as a young student. And in a society where real examples and distant mentors are hard to find, it is always refreshing to revisit his work. And I think the impact on generations of writers and researchers and thinkers like me is far-reaching more than sometimes we appreciate. I do my work at University of Southern California, Los Angeles, but even far away, I still refer to some of the conversations I've had with him And that is why I keep smiling and pay attention to so many things he writes. And it encourages us. I think Professor Yankah's real work encourages us to chart our own course, and not really for a space in a spotlight, but really a chance to tell our own story. For a few years now, Professor Yankah, I think you've quietly embarked on this digital project with your Facebook posts, and I get some on WhatsApp. I'm one of the last few people who have sworn I will never get a Facebook page, so I'm still standing on that. But I get it on WhatsApp. And luckily, because I get to ask him why he said the things he said. But that's the value of a digital library, that I am hopeful many people will get to access the work that he's done. And for people on Facebook and other platforms, when you migrate into a digital library, my hope is that you can always go back and see some of the old school work that is informing his new school writings. So I'm looking forward to that. But access is good. I remember Professor Yankah and I, we were at an event in Legon, I think, I forgot the building, but it was an event a few years ago. And we both talked to a good friend of ours who is now gone, the late Professor Nketia. And he was saying that if we are not careful and if we are not intentional, we will lose the wisdom of the years gone by, because people who held the wisdom, the greats, will be like libraries on fire. And so when he said that, we smiled at that time. But even fast forward, this is initiatives that looks like it's a huge step to lead the way so that the libraries are not set on fire, but they exist in a technological space that we can all reach it. As a researcher and as an observer of social events, the impact on the future is going to be very, very, very important. Dr. Kwesi Yankah, one of the things I hope I get to see in the digital library will be the pictures that you attach to the articles. Because for some strange reason, he knows exactly what picture to take to help tell the story so perfectly. And so hopefully those pictures that underline those articles will be something that we get to see in the digital library. But very importantly, I think, Dr. Crunchy, my last train of thought is someday in future, I think sometimes in universities, we get a chance to tell students, or even in schools, we get a chance to tell students, take an article and write what you think about the article. What do you think the author was saying? And I think someday when we have students going back to Professor Kwesi Yankah's work, they can go back and trace it a lot easier than you did when you were looking for his work and you have to scrounge around and look for things. Hopefully, it will be easy to find. But the most beautiful thing is that when that day shows up, all of us on this call will be able to say we lived in the moment when Professor Kwesi Yankah took that step to convert most of his work or all of his work into a digital space. So thank you again for having me and being an opportunity to support. I'm excited and thanks, and I'm happy to listen. Thank you. And Professor Yankah, thank you also for making this possible.
Thank you very much, Professor Obey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Obey is joining us all the way from Edmonton in Canada. And we are privileged to have you here, sir. Thank you very much. We'll take one last reflection of Prof's work. If you want to take the challenge, just raise your hand and I will give you the microphone.
And the moderator, the veteran Cameron is on standby.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. This is a meeting of the people that I looked up to growing up. And I am really, really honored. Mr. Dodo, if you are ready to speak, we are ready to listen to you, sir.
Is Cameron with us? Evans, did you say Cameron was standing by?
All right, while we wait for Mr. Cameron Duodu to speak, if he is on, I want to, like I've said, this is a meeting of brilliant minds, people that I looked up to whilst growing up, people whose writing, whose work influenced my love for strategic communications and public relations. And this afternoon, we are privileged to have on the call the president of Ashesi, Mr. Paul Ewua. We also have on the call Mr. Dr. Patrick Ewua. My apologies. All I'm thinking about is my name, Paulina. Dr. Patrick Ewua is on the call. We also have Mr. Kwesi Yankah on the call. We have Dr. Eric Obing Edmonds from the University of Texas, who has just spoken. We also have Mr. Jude Intifo of Ho Technical University and Mr. John Manful, former agri consultant for the Ministry of Agriculture. As we go on, I will introduce more VIPs as they join in. Thank you. Moving on, I am privileged to introduce my global alumni president. Before the meeting started, the Achimotans were talking. So now it's time for us from SWESCO to speak. And so my global president, Mr. Samuel Atamensa, will speak in a bit, but before he does, I will introduce him. Mr. Samuel Atamensa is the Chief Executive Officer of City 97.3, my favorite station, FM, and Channel 1 TV. He's a media executive with a media career spanning 3 decades. He's been involved in the setting up and building of market-leading media organizations in Ghana since 1995. They include Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, Adom 106.3 FM, Love 99.5 FM, City 97.3 FM, and Channel 1 TV. He played a pioneering role in the setup of myjoyonline.com as a team member and now runs citynews.com and channel1newsonline.com. Samuel joined Coca-Cola West Africa in 2002 as a market development manager in Sierra Leone and Liberia before setting up City FM in 2004 and eventually Channel 1 TV in 2018. He holds a BSc in computer science from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and an MBA from Leicester University. We'll take a short speech, a short comment from Mr. Samuel Atamensa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paulina Kranche. It gladdens my heart that you are also a PSCA from Swedru Secondary School. Although Prof did not attend Swedru Secondary School, he is an associate member and a member of the family. And I consider it a real privilege to have to be part of this occasion. You know, Prof himself is history, and his writings would have a place in our history. And so for somebody who strayed into the media in the last 30 years is called upon to offer such a contribution, I really consider it a real honor. Today, as we celebrate, the launch of this digital library, we all know that it's not just a celebration of a library or a launch. For me, I see this as an unveiling of a national intellectual treasure, the complete lifelong archive of Professor Kwesi Yankah, who we all know is one of Ghana's finest minds and such an influential public intellectual. I noticed that this library captures a remarkable body of his works, his books and monographs in linguistics, ethnography of communication, and more importantly, his groundbreaking public lectures, decades of newspaper columns, speeches that stirred up national debates, manuscripts, and lately social media writings. And growing up as a student in my latter days of secondary education and university education, his legendary satire in the column Woes of a Patriot. On an occasion like this, I cannot help but to highlight some of the key points of my own experiences and encounters. Scholar of language, voice of the nation. Prof. Yankah's academic texts deepened understanding of Ghanaian communication in various ways. His public lectures that provoked thoughts and sometimes heat. I remember from the J.B. Dankwa Memorial Lectures to some of his keynote addresses, which at the time was censored by the powers that be. His public lectures were not events, they actually were turning points. We talked about columns that captured the pulse of the nation, and the GJ president made reference to some of them in newspapers like the Catholic Standard, the Mirror, Uhuru, and most memorably the Legon Observer. Professor Yankah chronicled political transitions and, to some extent, our cultural anxieties and the humor of the everyday Ghanaian life. We looked forward to it. And my favorite, Woes of a Patriot, I consider a satire in the service of the nation, written over decades. The column established him as one of Ghana's greatest satirists. Behind the humor lay sharp civic critique. Bureaucracy ran amok, political absurdities, social contradictions. Through laughter, he taught the nation how to reflect on itself. And now his social media writings. His recent digital essays, curated, if my memory serves me correctly, from 2021, 2022 to date. And this shows a new commitment to reaching new audiences, and I think is an amazing effort. His impact on national development is something that I cannot overemphasize. Prof, his writings did more than entertain or inform. They shifted mindsets and influenced national conversations, something that is not strange to all of us here. Strengthening civic awareness, preserving Ghana's social and contemporary history. Much of what today's journalists and historians know about various eras, military rule, democratic transitions, media struggles, cultural shifts, has been shaped by some of his documentations. So this digital library now becomes a primary source for studying Ghana's recent past. In all these, I ask myself, what are the lessons for the next generation? As we open this digital library, we also open a classroom without walls. And so, what should students, journalists, scholars, and young writers take from Prof. Yankah's legacy? Quick thoughts. First of all, we should learn to write with courage. He wrote during the times when truth was very expensive, yet he persisted. Secondly, blend scholarship with public relevance. Prof indeed showed that intellectual work must serve public good. Thirdly, master the power of language. This goes without saying. His command of humor, satire, and rhetoric demonstrated that language can soften resistance, sometimes disarm hostility, reveal truth, and inspire reflections. Well, platforms will change. As we see, newspapers are gradually giving space to the digital channels, social media blogs. But the principles of responsible writings will never change. The digital library itself is proof that knowledge can adapt across generations. So, Prof, this library is more than a collection. It's indeed an inheritance. It preserves the reflections of a man who used language to strengthen national consciousness, challenge complacency, and remind us of our shared humanity. As we celebrate this milestone, may the next generation draw inspiration from his courage, his scholarship, his humor, his relentless devotion to truth, because his words shaped our past. Through this library, they will continue to shape our future. I thank you very much for this opportunity. Back to you, Dr. Kranche.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel Atamensa. Indeed, with this digital library, Prof is creating a classroom without walls. Now, we have heard testimonies about the writings of Prof, the work that he has done in the past, and how he has influenced people. I think that it is apt that we have a conversation with the man himself to understand how he came to this and what he hopes to achieve with this. And so I will have a short conversation with Professor Kwesi Yankah himself. But before I do that, let me take you through who he is and how we got here in the first place. So Professor Kwesi Yankah is a linguist. He's a former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, as well as a former Vice Chancellor of Central University, which he transformed from an undergraduate college mentored by other universities into a fully fledged university awarding its own degrees. He has until recently been the Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, an appointment that denotes his immense contribution to education in Ghana. Professor Yankah is highly respected in his field, and he's a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, fellow, the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, and fellow, the American Folklore Society. Professor Yankah has held fellowship at several well-acclaimed universities, including Stanford, Northwestern, Michigan, Berkeley, Pennsylvania, and Birmingham, UK. He was from 2009 to 2017 Associate Director of the African Humanities Program established by the American Council of Learned Societies. Besides his numerous publications in leading journals in the humanities and social sciences and media publications, as a renowned public intellectual, Professor Yankah has authored 2 award-winning books that are used as text in several universities around the globe, namely Speaking for the Chief, Ochiame and the Politics of Akan Royal Oratory, which won the Gold Book Award by the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, and the Proverb in Context of Akan Rhetoric, which was winner of the Ghana Book Award. The latter was based on his award-winning Esther Kingsley doctoral dissertation at Indiana University in 1985. The first by an African. He also co-edited African Folklore, an encyclopedia published by Routledge, which is described as the first work of its kind to offer something close to a comprehensive coverage of folklore throughout the African continent in a single source, as well as covering the African diaspora. Being the prolific scholar that he is, Kwesi Yankah continues to publish critical works. In 2021, he published his intellectual biography titled Beyond the Political Spider: Critical Issues in African Humanities. In 2023, Professor Yankah released another compendium titled The Pen at Risk: Spilling My Little Beans, a work that Manasseh Azuri-Awuni aptly describes as a piece of authentic, ungarnished history by a writer and public intellectual who is too modest to accept that he's a historian, but who witnessed and chronicled the most intriguing epochs of Ghana's national life. Since 2024, Professor Yankah has given 3 key speeches at 2 prominent universities in Ghana, Ashesi University and University of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to introduce you to Professor Emeritus Kwesi Yankah. Prof.
Hello. Hello,
Yes,
colleague.
Professor.
You forget to mention where I am at the moment.
Yes, Professor Yankah is an emeritus professor at Ashesi University.
Thank you.
Yes. Prof.
Yes, listening to you.
What brought us here? For
Oh,
a man your age, why do you think that a digital library is important?
Paulina, it's people like you who appear to have followed my writings all over these years. I was thinking of people like you, the younger ones, and what is going to happen maybe after 10, 15 years when we are probably no more. Is there any legacy that is going to be left for the younger ones to consume, but also know about the world as we lived it? This idea never occurred to me until 10, 15 years ago. A colleague of mine who was at the Language Center, University of Ghana at the time, weeping at that time, said she thought I had enough to do to put up a library of my own works. And I really thought she was joking. And it was a time that I had written a column for more than 20 years, but at the same time had been promoted to professor and was avidly writing. I never thought about that it would eventually be fulfilled until I literally realized that if I consider the time I started writing, that was when I was 27 years old, a young graduate who just started teaching at the University of Ghana and started writing for the Catholic Standard. At a time that very few dared to speak their mind. It doesn't mean that I was courageous. No, I was just like everybody else, except that I thought we could use allegory to tell the Ghana story. And so I started writing under the name and Bonsam Fireman. And many people around me, including those in Lagos, never knew who was the author. Not even my landlord was a military officer. I was chatting with him, never knew I was writing that dangerous column. I wrote until I left. When I was about to leave to do my doctorate, I decided to compile my writings into Abonsam Fireman. And that is where I revealed my identity for the very, very first time. And then when I returned from my doctoral work at Indiana, I decided to start another column. I was actually prompted by Adjoa Ebuafari prompted me to narrate the experience I went through clearing my goods at Tema Harbor. I sent 2 articles to the Mirror, and they thought the articles were good enough for me to be encouraged to transform them into a column. So that started it all. The most recent ones from 1986, I never stopped almost every week. I can't believe that people were yearning for my writings until I wrote for 10 years and I thought I was going to retire. But I can tell you, I realized I had surprised myself because not a single week passed without people asking, where is Kwesi Yankah? Particularly if I don't appear in a column for a week or two. And at the time that people feared for their lives and journalists were very careful about what to say, what not to say, I counted myself very, very lucky that I didn't end up elsewhere. But I think details of that have been left in the book, The Pen at Risk, which are my memoirs. But I must say I have written so much, and this is beside the academic work which was feeding me. As a matter of fact, for the Mirror, I wrote free of charge. For the Catholic Standard, was I being paid about 10 cedis per article or something? So these were generally free, but the joy of even hearing the younger boys and girls saying that we are children, but we read your articles. Older women and men saying we read your articles. Some of them had compiled my articles where they were keeping them under their pillow. Virtually, they didn't want to let go. And even the government itself, I must say that it was a kind of love-hate relationship. They probably didn't like, I wasn't their favorite in terms of the impact I was having on people in connection with my perspective on the policy they were coming out with. But at the same time, the government felt a little pressured whenever I didn't appear and people thought I had been arrested. So I think that kept them partly at bay and realized that maybe I was playing a role within society which they could not interfere with. Otherwise, the wrath of the public may descend on them. So this has gone on for several years and I'm still writing, and I thought now at the digital age, I was going to simply launch a website. And then one of you, maybe Paulina, you yourself, said, no, what I'm doing is a digital library, not just a collection of all my writings, including academic work and keynote speeches all over, putting them together. And she thought, you yourself thought it's better to call it a digital library. So I changed it from the launch of a website to something bigger and brighter, a digital library, globally accessible, not just for those who are close to a library, but wherever you are in the world, maybe you can still have a dialogue about things happening in Ghana. Researchers, scholars may have access to it, and who knows, issues that are raised may trigger new research topics. So I did it just for scholars, the general public, particularly students who may have heard of me, but would also have wished to have met me. At least they can have access to the legacy that I'm leaving them. So that's precisely the reason I decided, and you decided I should call it a digital library.
And this indeed is a legacy that will live after you. But one of the questions that has kept bugging me is, Prof, how do you come up with the names? The Patriot, Obonsam Fireman. And how do you find the time to do all that writing that you do, in addition to everything else that you do?
Paulina, the name has been a dilemma. You know, there was a colleague of mine at Winneba Secondary School when I was a student in the 60s. He was called Samuel Akwe. His guy name, if you like, was Fireman
Okay.
for one reason or the other. And then there was a song at the time, produced and sung by the Uhuru dance band, Abonsam Fireman. I wanted something different and something crazy. And the irony was that the column I was writing was for a society or institution that would not tolerate Abonsam. Public Standard was produced by the church.
Yeah.
And here was I with a column, but somehow people ignored it and just accepted it. And it went on for 2.5 or 3 years. Then when I returned from my doctorate work and had a number of misfortunes clearing my goods at the harbor. And Adra Ebuaferi urged me to do a piece and narrate exactly what I went through. And what name was I going to give to that piece of writing? I said that this is a Ghanaian, a patriot who is returning home, could have stayed outside because his thesis has won an award, everybody was looking for him, but he still decided to come home. So is that the price I pay for loving my country so much? I've decided to come home. So the woes represented the trouble I went through as a national, as a patriotic person returning home to serve. And I couldn't use the word patriot. Just wanted to be creative. And I said, why not combine Kwesi and patriot? And I got patriot.
Brilliant.
So yeah, what was I with a pseudonym patriot that people found attractive. They forgot about the name itself, but they were enjoying the columns from week to week. Can't believe it. When I travel outside Ghana, my editor, Jenna Painting, still wanted me to write. While I was in Stanford, I was still writing weekly, and I was faxing it through the fax machine because they couldn't afford to see it vacuum, and people were complaining. So I just kept writing, combining the work I was doing at Stanford and other places, but at the same time, also writing my column, not necessarily weekly, but at least monthly. So here you are. I thought I should put all this together. Having written for several years, and if I should leave this world the next hour, I may be lucky if people even remember if there was such a writer. Why don't I leave a legacy that would be indelible? That's the idea behind it, Paulina.
Prof, I see that you are now an emeritus professor at Ashesi University, and from this side of the planning committee, I see the work that Ashesi put in as a partner in this project. Do you have any other partners? And are you looking for partners to make this grander than it already is?
Well, it's available. I'm sure I may get invitations by other universities to have the link, associated with their university, have the link on their website. I'm welcome to any such suggestions, but I'm sure quite a number of universities, both here and internationally, would like to associate with this. And partly also because quite a number of things that I've researched were published in America, a few of them. Indiana University published Speaking for the Chief, which eventually won an award with the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. And the second award-winning book was also associated with an American university, even though it was published by a different publisher in New York to begin with. So while all these works are available and accessible to individuals and schools in America, you may be surprised to realize that when I wrote my very first book on the proverb, the book was so expensive, I couldn't afford to buy copies for Ghanaian libraries until much later. That when it was republished in 2012, it's not available. And similarly, American universities also do not have very easy access to articles that I've written, published in African journals. And I can tell you that I was surprised when I visited Northwestern University and realized that, of course, they had the biggest Africana library in the world at Northwestern. Surprisingly, Northwestern stopped the Uhuru magazine, which was founded by my brother Kwesi Yankah. It was a family magazine. At the time that copies of those were not found in Ghanaian libraries, Northwestern University had Uhuru. And finally, they went as far as even having authentic copies of papers that were read at the by the West African Linguistic Society Conference as far back as I think 1974 or so. They had handwritten copies of all these, right, deposited in their libraries there. So we were having problems having the two worlds dialogue with the other, the African world, the third world, and the so-called the Western society. This dissolves all the boundaries we are talking of. You have a global accessibility, whether you are in Texas, California, Michigan, Cape Coast, or Legon, you can directly access the legacy that I hope to have left.
Brilliant. Prof, we will go through the entire library in a bit, but like you say, this is like breaking down the barriers. Often when people say, why do Ghanaians go abroad to learn African studies, for example, or Africans go abroad to learn African studies, for example, I smile because like you say, a lot of our resources we cannot find in Ghana or in Africa, but once we go outside, they are available. I want you to let us know finally, what are the different ways that people can access the resources? Because I know that, like you have said, some include your books, some include writings that you have done in the past, etc., etc. How will people be able to access the different parts of the digital library?
First of all, they are in various categories. You have the books and full-length books and monographs, some of which have been published, and where the copyright may not have lapsed and the copyright may still be active. We are going to facilitate the access that the public may want to have with some of the books. For example, the proverb book was republished or reprinted in 2012. It's available. You can get it at Amazon, but currently I'm arranging with a local publisher on the basis of requests to print as many copies as are needed locally, and so on and so forth. For quite a number of the monographs, for example, the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, where quite a number of lectures, public lectures, have been published. When we get a request, the Academy to try to make available to see if it is at all possible. Where necessary, we are going to seek permission from the publishers and have a local publisher reprint what they already have. But a good number of items will be available to be read only, restricted, yes, maybe not necessarily to be downloaded, but they will be made available on the basis of read only. And I'm referring to quite a number of the keynote speeches I've given, more than 100 of them, all over the place. They may be made available for read only. And as far as the writings in the newspapers, the columns are concerned, that is where there will be partly restricted access, in the sense that some may be exposed for reading, some may be restricted, and maybe a little contribution may be requested for contribution, a token contribution toward the maintenance of the page. That's what's going to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Prof. We will do a Q&A, but I want us to first go through the library so that if members of the audience have a question, then they can ask. So if you are ready, Dan, please take us through the library at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Anche. Yes, it is my pleasure, and I would like to welcome everyone once again to the launch of the Yankah Digital Library. So without wasting much time, we will dive right into the website, kwesiyankahwrites.com. So I'll put the web address in the chat pane so anybody can follow that link if you so wish. kwesiyankahwrites.com.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, William.
Are you
Yes.
going to take us to the site directly?
Please, yes, I'm going to take us to the site directly. So in a moment, I will share my screen and then we all take it from there. Okay, so assuming you open your web browser at fresh, you would want to enter kwesiyankahwrites.com as we have here, and then you press enter. So it takes us directly to the website. There you go. So that's the smiling face of our venerable Professor Kwesi Yankah over there. The smile alone welcomes you to the website, inviting you to explore and transact with the website, do as much reading as you can. So starting off, as Prof did mention early on, we have four main broad categories on the website, which is the sole authored books, the monographs, we have edited volumes, and then keynote speeches. Apart from that, we have three main genres. The genres include the media writings. Now, the media writings are further broken into two. We have the original or the earliest, which is the Fireman series as far back as between 77 and the 80s. And then following that one is the missing pages of June 4th. So assuming you come here, let's start right off on track. The first thing you would want to do is to make sure that you have an account created for yourself. So you create your account. Now you can see this icon here, which looks like.
Hello. Are you sharing the screen?
Please, yes, I'm sharing the screen. Please, are we follow? I hope you can all see the screen.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Yes.
Perfect. So we have on the right top corner, we have three icons here. Now, on the very first one from your left, where the cursor hovers on now, that is the account. So you'd want to click on it. Now, I'm already logged in, so let me log out.
Am I the only one having problems accessing your...
Please, what problems are you having?
I'm not along.
You're not seeing my screen.
No, I don't see your screen.
We are seeing your screen, but you can try sharing the entire screen so that we will follow along, even when you change, you move from this interface.
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm sharing the entire screen.
Oh.
And please, are we all on the website?
No, I am not. The screen is not showing. The screen is not showing on mine. I can see from here.
And please, is the screen showing on any of us screen?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
So,
I
Yes.
can see the
okay, please,
screen.
our technicians, William and your partners, kindly work on it because some are having
No,
access to the screen and others are not. So please
no,
assist
we
with
are
that.
we are seeing the screen, right? But we are
Mhm.
not seeing the demonstration. It's static. It's where, so when you go to categories or you go to contact, we are not seeing when you click on contact, we are not seeing the interface we are supposed to see.
Okay,
You get
now
it?
okay, so now I have not actually entered into any of them yet.
Okay.
Yes, I just want us to start with the account creation. So you first visit the site. So at this point, you are regarded as a visitor. You are a stranger on the website. So we don't know you. So you'd want to have an account created for yourself on the website so that you can be recognized as being part of us. Now you are part of the family. So when you see here, we have three icons. And please, do we see the three icons here?
Yes.
The
Yes,
top right corner, yes.
yes.
So the very first one from your left, that's the account. So if you click on it, it will take you to the account page. So we have login, if you already have an account registered for yourself, and we have register if you are a new member or a visitor. So now that you are visiting the website for the first time, you are a visitor. So you may want to register. Now, one interesting thing about Kwesi Yankah Write is that it's very convenient and user-friendly. We don't worry you that much. We don't require much details. All we need from you is your name and your email address. So you key in your first name, your last name, your email address, and then you set up a password for yourself. Afterwards, you register. Now that becomes your account once and for all. Now, having registered, you can now have access to all the multifaceted benefits of the website. So now I am going to, since I already have my account created, I'm going to key in my details. So my email here, I'll put in, and then I'll key in my password as well. After inputting my email address and the password, I'll go on to log in. Okay, so here we are. So we are now on the website, having access to everything on the website. So right off, I would want to introduce us to the various sections on the website. If we look here, we have some headings. We have horizontal headings here from the home, author, shop categories, frequently asked questions, contact, event, my right hand. Now the home is where you are first exposed to as soon as you log on to the website. So let's click on the home and see how the home interface looks like. So this is the home. And we deliberately put this picture of Professor Kwesi Yankah here, the smiling professor, to welcome you. So that's a warm welcome you to Kwesi Yankah Write. And we have this beautiful landscape on the website displaying all the various content and other sections. So that's the home page on the website. Now we also have the author section, which contains a little information about Professor Kwesi Yankah. So you can come here and then have a summary of who Professor Kwesi Yankah is for yourself, the works that he's done in the past, and then also any aspirations, vision, whatsoever, they've been captured here. Now, on that same section, we have my journey. In other words, he did not just land here from nowhere. He's coming from somewhere. So when we look at the pictures under my journey, we could realize that there are some pictures of Professor Yankah.
Once we have shared the link in the chat,
Okay.
we probably should round up so that people can explore for themselves. At this point, I need to let Professor Ite speak. And then once he's done, once he officially launches the digital library, If people have any questions based on the presentation you have just done, they can ask questions. Does that work?
Yeah, that, in other words, I should pause here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it possible to give him 5 minutes to round up so that we don't have to come back? Is it possible?
Professor Yankah needs to speak right away.
Okay.
As you know.
Or maybe I will have some few minutes to continue
afterwards.
After Professor Yankah's presentation. All right. Very well noted. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you too, Doc. So, Professor Ernest Yankah is an emeritus professor of development economics at the Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research at the University of Ghana. He was Secretary General of the African Research Universities Alliance from 2016 to 2024. He was also the Vice Chancellor of Ghana's premier university, the University of Ghana, from 2010 to 2016. Professor Yankah was the first director of the Africa Growth Initiative of Brooks Institution, Washington, D.C. And this afternoon, we are honored to have him as the special guest of honor. Professor Yankah, your audience, sir.
Yes, thank you very, very much, Pauline. Thank you very much. I'm very, very honored to be invited by my good friend, Professor Kwesi Yankah, to be the special guest of honor for this afternoon's launch event. We in Ghana are not so used to having digital libraries. And so if somebody has the courage to begin something like this, it's important that we appreciate it and congratulate him for the courage to do it. I have known Prof. Yankah for many years. We were students together at Mesa Hall back in the 70s. I was an undergraduate student while he was a graduate student. He came to our attention for his contribution to the Hall magazine, Siren. He was, from very early times, we knew how prolific a writer he was. We also saw him as a budding scholar. So I wasn't surprised when...
Prof, please, you are muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can. Yeah. We can.
So I was saying that I've known him for many years, from our days in Hall, where I was an undergraduate student and he was a graduate student. Our paths have always crossed, no matter where we have been. So I'm honored to be able to do this. The thing that strikes me about today's digital library launch is the fact that Kwesi is using the opportunity to do something that he has been doing for many years, communicating with people. From all the things that he did as a student, as a lecturer, as a professor, as a university manager, one thing that he has always done very, very well is to communicate. Communicate with people, communicate with governments, and so on. So all the testimonies that have been rendered this afternoon point to that fact, that he has been an excellent communicator. In doing this, he has always been a champion, providing a voice for the voiceless. As we saw with the Words of a Patriot, as we saw with Abdulsalam Fireman, he has used various means and media to provide a voice for the voiceless. Today, as we launch this digital library, I see it as a further illustration of his efforts over the years to democratize access to information. Through the digital library, we are providing access to many more people. We are providing access that otherwise would not have been available, access that would have been expensive. We heard earlier on about how books were expensive to the extent that students couldn't afford them, whether in Africa or in Europe. That is the fact of life. It's a fact of life. that the books are expensive. Through this digital library, Kwesi makes sure that poorer students, poorer people in the public have access to good, useful information. So we do laud him for that. We do appreciate all the effort that has gone into doing this. Digital libraries have always been known to provide, to preserve cultural and intellectual heritage. What Kwesi does with this effort is to provide that kind of heritage for us. Our children, our grandchildren, and those that come after them will forever see what this generation provided in terms of information, what this generation did in preserving democracy, what this generation fought for. Kwesi's fights over the years with governments, with authority that is defying democracy is well documented here. And so it's important that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren know that we are not all silent observers, that some of us fought through our works. And Kwesi's work here is a good testament to that effort. So, Kwesi, I appreciate everything that you've done for the media. I appreciate everything that you've done for academia. I appreciate everything that you have done for Ghanaians, providing a voice for the voiceless, providing a voice for the downtrodden, providing a voice for people for whom nobody would have given a chance or to listen to. So you've done that and we appreciate it. Today you've come far with this digital library. What you sought to do over many years has resulted in the material that has been assembled here. I commend you for that. I commend you, and I want to express a deep appreciation for everything that you've done. So, on that note, I'm very, very happy to declare the Kwesi Yankah Digital Public Library duly launched. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Like you have said, one of the things that Prof shows us, especially the younger generation, is that public intellectualism has to live on beyond us. And we hope that as Prof Yankah has done this, other academics will continue the path. I want to give Dan an opportunity to go back and take us through the website again, so that if members of the audience have any questions, they can ask. But before I do that, I want to remind you that once you join us, kindly use your full name. So if you are Ama Mensa, please use that, and avoid device names like iPhone, etc., etc. And please mute yourself so that we can have a good discussion. Before I let Dan speak again, I want to acknowledge the presence of Professor Hassan Wahab of Ashesi University, which hosts Professor Yankah at Ashesi. Thank you very much. Dan, back
Thank
to
you
you.
very much. Yes, thank you once again, Dr. Crunchy. So I'll go ahead and then share my screen. Yes. So we can see that some of the pictures of Professor Kwesi Yankah look younger. Prof Yankah looks younger in some of the pictures and older in other, meaning it reflects the journey that he has come. He's come far. And when we continue further down, we see some of his mentors over there. Yes, venerable personalities. We can see Honorable Sakujo Yankah, Mr. Bo Daniel, Prof. Maxime, Prof. Lawrence Abner Dolphin. So that's the section for the author. Now, due to time constraints, I'll rush to the dashboard and then demonstrate some of the materials that we have on the website. So whenever you visit the website, you know what you have available on the website. So let's delve into the dashboard. Now, as it stands now, we have about 26 books fully uploaded onto the website. And let me reiterate that almost every material on the website here is available for free. So every user, after having successfully created an account for yourself, you can go on, read any material, most of the materials, of course, and then you make notes for yourself, for your research, and then other undertakings. So please, let's take note of that. Many of them are for free. So starting from the top, for instance, we have education and scholarly authority, responsible media. We have free speech, education, literacy and governance, the proverb, language, the mass media, and democracy. Now, let's take us back to the 90s, where Professor Yankah was compiling some of his media writings in the columns of, the Mirror, especially. So let's go to the media writings. Let's say media writings 93, and have a look at what Prof has for us. So this material here is a compilation of some of the pieces of information Prof wrote in the year 1993. So for the younger ones, especially, Prof has some rich content for our history and then also for our knowledge and information as well. We go through the table of contents. We have a new democracy, a maiden budget, awaiting cabinet appointment. Now, Prof has a way of coming up with interesting and catchy titles. You may wonder how come he's able to even conceptualize those titles. And as you go through those materials, you'll be fascinated. So please don't worry at all. Visit the site and read as much as you could. We have Rapists in Parliament, interesting titles, 100 Days of Hunger. We have Salif Amankwa and Monkeys Limited. I mean, if you depend solely on the title, please, you'll be misrepresented. So don't judge, don't jump into conclusion, take your time, be patient, and then delve into the actual content. Then you'll be surprised. So let's say you are here in the table of contents. You don't have to, move all the way through. Let's say you are interested in unusual democracy. You just have to click on it, and then it takes you right there. So that's how convenient, easy, and user-friendly Kwesi Yankah Write is. And so please let us all get ourselves registered on Kwesi Yankah Write and then also utilize the resources over them. Now, let's go back there. Now, going back onto the website, let's check keynote speeches. Now, for keynote speeches, we have close to 100 selected keynote speeches. Close to 100 selected keynote speeches, but we currently have about 10 uploaded. So in a matter of time, you have as many as possible, close to 100 uploaded as well. So let's go to keynote speeches, for instance. Let's read one of the keynote speeches. So this is international. So we have all these keynote speeches. That is cutting across the board, international. And then we go back and then we also have a look at the local keynote speeches, all making up about 100. Now, for time constraints, I'm rushing because of time. Let's look at one of Prof's classic writings. We have The Beloved, Let Us Love, No Big English, Reflections of the Ghanaian Situation. Now, let's take a look at Beloved, Let Us Love. So please let me emphasize that these compilations, Beloved, Let Us Love, No Big English, and the Reflections, they are under the umbrella of Quatrot. Whereas The Last Days of a Large Blanket, which happened in around 77, 78, 9 there, and then the Missing Pages also around the same, those ones fall under the Fireman series. So please let's take note of that. So Beloved falls under Quatrot. So Beloved, here we have some of the interesting titles like Final Funeral Rites. I mean, you take a look at the title and you wonder, what's this about? Look at Presidential Foreheads. Presidential Foreheads. I mean, can someone maybe predict or make a guess about what the content would really be? It's very tough. So you see, the topics alone are intriguing, captivating. So let's all, familiarize ourselves with the website, read as much as we can. We have, and forgive us our trespasses. Please don't jump into conclusion. Prof will surprise you. Yes. So going back to the website again. So these are the materials that we have on the website. As I said early on, almost all the materials are for free. But then, for maintenance purposes, a reader may be moved to make, a modest contribution, just a token. Maybe I want to support Prof in maintaining the website periodically. So you can do that in two ways. That's for the paid content. You may choose to maybe purchase some of the paid content, some of the media writings, which may be available for pay per read, or you may also go ahead and then buy a full book. That's a print out book, which is also fine. So that one is one part of, gathering contribution for maintaining the website. And we also have another section, which is the donation. Now, donation here is purely voluntary. Please. So as you are moved, whenever you can go ahead and make donations to support the running of the website. So thank you very much. If you have any question, we have the FAQ here, frequently asked questions. You come here under the FAQ. There are fantastic answers to some of the questions that you may have in mind. So when you come here, I'm sure some of your concerns may be addressed over here. At this point.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you. At this point, I think I want to reiterate the aspects of the donation. Like Prof said, when I was having the conversation with him, he is doing this by himself, hoping that other partners will come on board. And so if you are so moved, please donate to this worthy cause. Donate to encourage Prof and other like-minded academics and writers to make their work accessible to everyone. I will give the audience 5 minutes for a Q&A with Professor Kwesi Yankah. And so if you have any question, now would be a good time to ask. If you raise your hand, I will give you the microphone to speak. But while we wait, please do well to visit the site to check out some of the material. I saw an article with the title, "The Situation Can Be Butu Butu Butu." Check out all of those ones and the foreheads of ministers and all of that. Anyone with a question for Prof? You can put your questions in the chat as well. We will ask Prof on your behalf if you do not want to speak. Like they do in Harvest in a Methodist church. Going once, going twice, gone. All right. Okay, sir. Would appreciate if you could share your name and if you have a question to ask your question. All right. Because of, yes, Professor Hassan, please go on.
Thank you very much. I have a question that somebody asked me, or a Prof, that I don't know. So I'm going to ask this. I'm not even sure that the person knows I'm going to ask. The question was, do I think Prof is using a hair dye or something?
Prof, over to you. Prof, you are muted, please, if you are speaking.
Whenever I meet my brother Kojo, people see the difference by way of the color of hair. And Kojo is far older than me. I'm the third born, he's the first. And what I've been telling everybody is to consider two people, one of them using a hair dye and the other not using a hair dye. And I often am the first to speak and also to say that my brother Kojo has decided to dye his hair white, has a gray dye, while I have maintained the original black. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Prof. Dr. Edmondson, Dr. Edmonds, Dr. Bing Edmonds, yes. Please go ahead with your question.
Very much. I have a question, the same question Professor Kwesi Yankah asked me 5 years ago. I'll ask him the same thing today. Sometimes he will write an article that you wonder how he was able to inject himself into the situation to be able to write very, very carefully and very, very thoughtfully. How do you do that? So, Professor Kwesi Yankah, you asked me that same question a long time ago, and now I'm trying to get into your head to try to understand how you are able to weave yourself into situations that sometimes you're not even a part of, but as a social observer, you're able to place yourself in it to be able to articulate the story very well.
Eric, the answer lies in the word you use or phrase, social observer. I am virtually addicted to close observation, particularly or even in situations that are not relevant to my own interest. And I also listen a lot to people so that many of the things that I say are also things that others are also saying, the common person is saying. And maybe the difference is that I decide to descend to the level or the language of the ordinary man if a thought is better expressed in an idiom, in a local language, local dialect. I'm not constrained in any way, moving from English and coming down to whether broken English or local expression, if that more vividly expresses my thought. And so close observation, every single thing when I go to church, I'm always thinking of how I could describe one small scene that I've encountered, how vividly, how to capture a kind of photographic memory. I try to recollect things that I've gone through with the minutest detail, and I think I enjoy that. It's empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of other people, and also listening to other people use interesting expressions and say, wow, I wish that were me. And so that is close observation. That is probably my best interest, describing scenes. And whenever it comes to speaking more in abstraction, I think that's the most boring part of my writings. But when I descend into the minutiae, description, that is what the ordinary person, just listen to somebody narrate an incident at the lorry park, in the market. And I try to depict what the ordinary person, the vivid description of scenes, just an imitation of the natural trend of life.
Interesting. You are just a creative person, and it's beautiful to see how you create the process that you use in creating. I see in the chat that we have Professor Frimpong with us. He says he's your former student and also the director of the Center for African Popular, I think, Music or Culture, something like that, because I follow Professor Frimpong online. And then I see representation from Aguna East, of course. So Swedru and all around there. I see representation from there. This has been a very interesting event, novel, again, because this is the first time we're seeing an academic and a public intellectual put their work out there for people all over the world to be able to access. But at the start of the program, I promised that we will close at 4:30. Unfortunately, we have gone over the time. And so I will give you the final words, Prof, and then we'll do the vote of thanks and call it an evening. Prof.
Oh, what else do I have to say but to thank everybody. This is a dream come true. It has taken me more than 10 years. I started this several years ago, particularly when I was Pro-Vice Chancellor at the University of Ghana, and had these, don't forget that many of the items were originally even handwritten when I started. But when you realize at the time we started, the computers were not the most regular thing you ever had to preserve knowledge. Many of them have ended up in archives, and particularly the newspapers I was writing for were so many that, for instance, there was one newspaper by Rex Dankwa called National Agenda, and I was asking him if he could give me copies of articles or columns that I wrote for him for about 1.5 years. He said he doesn't have even a single copy of that available. So all that is gone down the drain. And there was one particularly published book that I have no copy of. The title is The Last Days of Alhaji Blanket. And it covers the period from 1975 or so to 70. To the Achampon period, the early part of the Achampon period. As of now, I cannot even trace it unless I go back to the Catholic Standard and go to their archives, if their archives are still alive. So there has been a tremendous difficulty trying to reach the bottom of my creativity. So what I have displayed are just a fragment, and I do hope that over the coming years, I'll keep looking for the original articles that I wrote and put them out for display. And as was pointed out, many of the items can be read only, and it's good for researchers and students. Quite a few also, we will request a little contribution, as was said, to help maintain the domain. Otherwise, when we lose it, we have lost a whole universe. We will request a token contribution, particularly for some of the articles. So I hope you will bear with us and us. And I'm hoping that not only this be maintained, this facility be maintained, but also it should be possible if we raise enough money to start a children's library. In some of the villages in my constituency. These are some of the bigger dreams that I have if this ends up being highly patronized. So I thank everybody, particularly the team. Paulina, you yourself, Evans, Lujenfi, my administrator, Dan, and a number of people, Ashesi University itself that is hosting this, colleagues in Central University, University of Ghana, and those who were originally part of my research team when I started writing. Some of them are big professors now. Kofi Ejekum was part of the team. He's a big professor at the University of Ghana. Professor Akane Pari, of Linguistics Department. These at that time were teenagers, younger boys that were running errands in order to make sure that we had a column running. To all this and everybody here, consumers, my brother and my mentor, Kwesi Yankah, I appreciate all your effort to ensure the consistency and the flow of my column and making yourself available to mentor me all these years. Professor Simeon, who is no more, Ebo Daniel, a great humorist and great writer, who was my neighbor and a mentor. So to everybody at society, I thank you all for making time to join me today to this probably path-breaking agenda. Thank you, everybody. Paulina.
Thank you very much, Prof. This has been brilliant. Thank you. With Prof having thanked everyone, I especially want to mention the team at Ashesi who were very instrumental in helping us on the technical side of things. William, we want to take a selfie, to commemorate this day. So if you could help us, and if everybody could turn on their cameras, that would be helpful. William, can you help us with a selfie?
All right, I'll do that.
Brilliant.
If everybody has their camera on.
Yes, please put your camera on. Put your camera on, and don't forget to send the message across that the Yankah Digital Library is live. Please remember to donate as well. And we hope to see you on the website patronizing Prof's dream come true. We are ready for the selfie, William.
It's a multiple selfie, eh?
Yes, everybody.
One second. Sorry, I moved to my phone, so I'm trying to get back on my laptop. Give me a second.
All right.
Then I see you have your screen on. Now maybe you can take the selfie since you have your laptop on. It will be simpler for you to do it because I moved to my phone.
Wait, could you just perhaps help me with how to do it exactly?
You do a screenshot of your like a print screen.
Not everybody is coming in.
Just the ones that come in will be fine because your screen can only take so many people at a time, so it's okay.
No, I mean it's not as big. It's all at the top in nature. So
One second. Okay, let me try. I'm gonna join. 1 second.
Maybe it's the. Okay, I figured it out. It's all right.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah, my video is on. Yeah, I'm on. Oh, I missed Samantha Mensa. Samantha is gone.
I'm here.
Oh, you are there? Oh,
yes, I'm here.
Your camera
I'm
on?
here.
Is your camera?
Hello?
Okay, I can see you now.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please wait. Dr. Hua is joining us again, so please wait.
Okay. Oh, is that Patrick? Is he joining us here?
Yes, I think he's joined now, hasn't he?
Okay. Patrick, where are you?
I'm on campus. I'm just.
Oh, so are you visible? Are we seeing you?
I'm in a car. I'm just driving out. So
okay.
Yeah, I was on for a bit. I got disconnected for about 5 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Okay. Cheese.
Cheese.
Done.
Thank you. Thank you, Nanama. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please send the message across that the Yankah Digital Library is live. And please donate. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Prof. And have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Patrick.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you,
Prof.
Pauline. Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Prof,
much.
I'll see you on
Thank
campus.
you, Prof. Hassan.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Hassan.
Bye-bye.
Ah, this is good. Ah, wow. Let me leave.